The Royal Rumble Wars have just begun. Blackbeard versus Law, Shanks versus Kid, and now Luffy versus the Gorosei and his time manipulation. Oda in Jump Festa 2022 teased us about this, but nobody expected it to happen this soon. However, One Piece chapter 1078 revealed more than that. It also exposed the traitor amongst the Vegapunks. Coming to the chapter, Stussy calls up Sentomaru to inform him of Kizaru and Gorosei Saturn's arrival on Egghead. Turns out that CP0 was meant to kill Vegapunk and wait for their arrival. This means that Saturn visiting Egghead was already pre-planned. Initially, the idea was suggested with the hierarchy control over the Seraphim. These test tube babies are OP, and Vegapunk has a higher authority over them than the CP0 agent. So technically, there would have been no way for him to lose. Hence why one of the five elders had to drop in to exercise their control over him. But saying that the CP0 mission was to take down Vegapunk before their arrival and then wait means that Garcia dropping in is for a whole different reason. The reason might be because the world government considers the contents of Egghead to be the utmost threat to their regime. That makes sense, as here lies Vegapunk's research of the special energy source that was used by the ancient kingdom, along with the research into the giant robot, and he apparently knows way more about the Void Century than the people of Ohara. However, Egghead has an extremely high defensive capability that requires more than a simple buster call. Also, Imu can't just go blowing up islands like Lulusia, as it seems the world government wants to preserve all the good that Vegapunk has made. All of this comes back to Oda's statement about the up-and-coming fights after Wano, where if he had to give it a title, then he would call it a free-for-all battle royale. Though we still believe Oda was implying a literal battle royale in Laugh Tale. Come on, more than half of these crews have all 4 road poneglyphs. But even if we don't see a Davy back fight between these guys, the other implication still stands, which was literally an all-out battle royale across the board, with a lot of people perishing in the process. Yes, this meant with Shanks engaging with Kid, Law, and Blackbeard, Garp and Blackbeard, and the Gorosei and the Straw Hats. This is literally what Oda was talking about. Because, you gotta win the Royal Rumble to get to WrestleMania, which is gonna be Laugh Tale. This storyline also forces the 5 elders to be introduced to the Straw Hats as their next antagonist. So far, beyond the Marines, it was all about CP0, but seeing Luffy's interaction with Lucci, their relationship will slowly be churned into another smoker type situation. So Garcia and his insane power will bring back perspective to the Straw Hats. The fear and need for Luffy to go beyond Gear 5 will make its play. Now, I doubt Luffy will fully understand the true capability of his awakening in this arc, but Luffy will be put into a situation realizing he still has a long way to go before becoming the king of the pirates. We can't stipulate much about Saturn's abilities, but knowing that his name is inspired from the Roman god, who was described to have control over time, generation, dissolution, and abundance, we can derive Garcia's power to be in those realms. Not saying that this man's power could be to control time, but if it was, it would lead Luffy in a direction to also bend the reality of space-time, which is something we have been suggesting for a while. Another possibility of Saturn's ability could revolve around him turning into a giant, as Saturn is often affiliated to Kronos from Greek mythology. Kronos was literally a gigantic titan, so yeah. Moving on, we are shown a desperate Frankie cursing at S-Snake for turning Usopp, Lilith, and right side of his upper body into stone. But hey, they kinda deserved it for thirsting over a freaking child.
It's now illegal. FBI, open up!
Pythagoras is also with this group, and he tries to communicate with the Chibi Boa, but all he gets is her left foot right to his face. Moving down to the second floor, Robin, Atlas, and Chopper are freaked out by the explosions from upstairs. This crew aren't too informed on what's been going on with the Seraphims, as they were busy getting Atlas repaired. Although they want to help the others, Robin reminds everyone to focus on finding the main Vegapunk, because if they're too distracted by fighting, then he will be in more danger. Additionally, Additionally, Atlas remembers a room which has been sealed off for a while, so to find some answers, she directs the team there. This room is foreshadowed to be the prison where Stella and the Cypher Pole agents are being held. Having Robin with all the things she can do with her hands, if you know what I mean, is definitely a way for Stella to escape. Then we move on to the 3rd floor, Building A, where Nami is holding a barely functioning Edison in her arms. Since Sanji has arrived to protect his queen against S-Shark, Brook decides to go into his ghost form to look for Stella as well. This fight of Sanji and Chibi Jinbei is quite interesting as they both possess Lunarian DNA. How do we know? Trust me, bro. Trust me.
My source is that I made it the up.
Watch these videos on screen if you want to know more. Although Sanji smacked the crap out of the Seraphim last chapter, he has taken barely any damage. Instead, S-Shark is actually throwing his own punch at our boy. But Sanji does not care because he has the top G stance on with his hands crossed. Just like in his fight against Queen, Sanji's eyebrows are flipped and his Germa genetic abilities have activated, so he has the defense stats of a Lunarian. But bro thinks he can withstand the attacks through the power of love for Nami. Yeah, he down bad. Meanwhile, on the 4th floor, Luffy, Zoro, Kaku, and Lucci are having some trouble with S-Hawk and S-Bear. Remember, they figured out they must attack when the Seraphim's flames are out, just like with King. But the fire has still been burning, giving them no chance to strike back. Of course, if all 4 of them activated their awakening or 9-sword style Ashura, these Seraphims would be done for. But remember, awakening takes a lot of stamina out of you. It must only be used as a last-ditch effort, even with Luffy's drums of liberation, and Zoro's 9-sword style consumes an insane amount of haki. Imagine using your ultimate trump card ability without knowing your opponent's strength and weaknesses. The Seraphim would just tank it and you'd be done for. Remember, with his Lunarian defense, King even withstood an advanced Conqueror's Haki Purgatory Onigiri from Zoro while taking 0 damage. All 4 of them activating their most busted abilities for 2 out of 4 Seraphims, while an Admiral and Gorosei member with 100 warships are approaching would just be silly. They would exhaust themselves before the main course even arrives. Furthermore, during the chaos of the battle, S-Hawk has slipped away from the fight because, according to Lucci, eliminating the weaker opponents would rattle the strong fighters, causing a handicap favorable to the Seraphims. But fear not, because Zoro and Usopp are on the case. Ooh. Yeah, you guys don't know Usopp? He has a long nose, wears a hat, and has a giraffe devil fruit.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, Usopp is still stoned. It's just Luffy being Luffy, calling Kaku Usopp because of the long nose. Luffy then, using his 5-head galactic brain 5000, comes up with a genius plan to just simply blast the fire away with his punches.
I think my brain just committed suicide.
We then cut to the narrator telling us that only 1 day remains before the infamous Egghead incident, and that the events of this arc were set in motion 3 months ago. It is confirmed that the traitor informed Marie Joie about Vegapunk's research of the Void Century. In return, the world government sent Cypher Pole agents to Egghead Island to confirm these allegations, but they didn't find any evidence of this report. However, the traitor locked all of them up, leading the world government to believe that Vegapunk had kidnapped or killed their agents so they wouldn't expose him. This prompted them to think that Vegapunk was indeed a threat against the world government. The traitor further instigates the issues between the government and Egghead by contacting the Goroseis themselves. Their conversation led them to believe that Vegapunk had for sure betrayed them, so they sent Rob Lucci and CP0 agents to handle things. But due to the severity of the situation, Gorosei sent Saturn along with Kizaru and a battalion of marine forces towards Egghead for an all-out war. The world government clearly does not underestimate Vegapunk, as this battalion was sent way before learning about the Straw Hats and Bonnie coming to Egghead. The only time we have seen the government so alert and cautious was right before the Marineford War, where a similar sequence of narration and paneling was used to showcase the might of the Marines during the Impel Down arc. Another thing to note is that Tashigi and Smoker might be on their way too. We know this through Vice Admiral Dahl being part of the Kizaru fleet from the G14 base. While Helmeppo left with Garp to Full Elite Island, Dahl and the others headed to Egghead. This arc might also dabble into Tashigi's relationship with Vegapunk when she arrives. Remember, she was able to get his help for the gigantified children that Caesar experimented on. But a deeper revelation might reveal why she looks identical to Kuina, as she could have easily been cloned. But let's be honest, Oda's saving that for the SBS, just like with Zoro's parents. We then cut to the prison room in Egghead, where Stella has just witnessed the traitor shoot Shaka in the head. He's freaking out, asking why did they do this, and then the traitor is York! Huh? Yes, York, the Desire, is the person who betrayed Vegapunk and the Straw Hats because she wanted to become a celestial dragon.
What did he say?
Yup, York the laziest, no-lifer who can only eat and sleep is the mastermind behind all this, and this actually makes sense if you think about the true theme of this arc, which is about Vegapunk not being able to suppress creatures' natural desires. At the time, we thought it's probably Vegapunk just thinking about some research of his, but now it all makes sense. When a creature's desire is left unchecked, the desire turns to greed. York's basic job amongst the Vegapunks is to eat, sleep, and dump it all out, but when desire turns to greed, it also affects the ambition of a person. Furthermore, it would affect her ambition from being the lowest tier amongst the Vegapunks to the highest tier amongst the humans themselves, considered to be gods. Even Stella was extremely confused with their statements, pointing out that the celestial dragons are the worst. Additionally, York already lives like a celestial dragon. Why would she want to betray her fellow Vegapunks? Well, she admits that she found every Vegapunk to be a nuisance, saying that the whole world only requires one Vegapunk, and that is what she desires the most. All of this highlights the importance of a unification of traits rather than an isolation, as on the surface, it might sound efficient to separate one's desires from wisdom or ingenuity or even good from bad, but this would eventually lead to loss of stability and hitting the fan. This will happen 9 out of 10 times, that's just Murphy's Law. Vegapunk, in his pursuit for excellence and to go further beyond, literally shot himself in the head. And if you want to go further beyond with your knowledge of One Piece, then click the video on screen right now.